good afternoon. I'm Chester Elton. I'm your host for Leading with Gratitude, coming to you from the Viral Appreciation Gratitude Center of the Planet, Summit, New Jersey. This is going to be 30 minutes of great information, great data, and your own personal roadmap to create a culture of gratitude at work and at home. It's all brought to you by all the great platforms out there, LinkedIn Live, Facebook, YouTube, by the amazing people at the Methods Network. Well, our guest today is one of the best CEOs in the world, and I don't say that lightly. His name is Garry Ridge. Garry is the CEO of WD-40. I know you've got a Ken. He joined the company in 1987, became the CEO in 1997. He is passionate about learning and empowering organizational culture. He's actually the lead story and the first case study in our new book, Leading with Gratitude. He's an author himself. In 2009, he co-authored a book with Ken Blanchard outlining his effective leadership techniques titled, Helping People Win at Work. Don't mark my paper. Help me get an A. He's a member of the Marshall Goldsmith MG 100 coaches. He is smart, funny, and engaging, and we have the same barber. He's a native Australian. He's living in beautiful San Diego. He's my dear friend, and I want to welcome to the show the greatest CEO I know on the planet, Garry Ridge. Welcome to the show, Garry.
Hey, g'day, Chester. Those are nice words, and we do have the same barber, Mr. Gillette.
You got that straight. Hey, listen, we're going to have some fun on the show today. We're going to give away some of our Motivators Assessment codes. If the listeners can put in the chat box the answer to this skill testing question. I know you know the answer. Do they know the answer? So if you're one of the first 10 people, what does WD-40 stand for? If you're one of the first 10, we'll give you a free code and we'll give you a shout out later in the show. Well, Garry, you are so focused as a leader on the importance of culture. The thing is, you call it a tribe, not a team. Why a tribe and not a team?
Well, it really goes back, Chess, to Maslow's hierarchy to self-actualization. If you think about it, the first two rungs are safety and survival, which is something that we're all very focused on right now. The next one is belonging or love. And unfortunately, most organizations don't create a culture where people actually feel like they belong. Ken Blanchard often says it's a shame the only time most people know they're doing a good job is because no one yelled at them today. So belonging and loving up your people is so important to us. So that's why a tribe is something you belong to. It has attributes, and it's a place where people absolutely are treated with respect and dignity and know that they have safety.
You know, you talk about, too, the attributes of a tribe that, they cheer for each other, they defend each other. Talk to me a little bit about those attributes of the tribe and why they're so important.
Well, the definition of a tribe is a group of people who come together to both protect and feed each other. And when you think about it, they're pretty powerful emotions. And we also celebrate together. But the other one that's really important, too, is learning and teaching. We're a tribe of learners and teachers. We want to help people step into the best version of their personal self every day. As we talked about, we're not here to mark their paper. We're here to help them get an A, because life is about helping people get A's. So we want to celebrate in good times, and we celebrate life in not so good times. And just right now, given what's going on in the world, it's just absolutely fantastic to see the tribe coming together and really wanting to support each other.
I know during this broadcast, you listeners are going to have a lot of questions. So we've got Justin Levere. He's in the Question Command Center. Can we get a shot of Justin? Just wave to the crowd there. He'll vet your questions, and we'll be taking them. Like good looking. Yeah, look at all that hair, right, Garry? The guy's a good looking guy. At any rate,
those were the days.
I want to talk to you.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. Yeah, you're right, my friend. So talk to me a little bit about the lessons you learned in the last recession. That's where we first started to talk to you about how you pulled your tribe through, 2008, 2009. What were some of those lessons that are applicable as well for today?
Well, the first one is communicate. And I say communicate always and always. Transparency, having clear intent, and helping understand where the boundaries are is very important. So that's number one. Number two is empathy. And empathy is really understanding the feelings of people. There's a lot of different feelings going on out there amongst people right now. And, I love some of the work that our friend Michael does in his book, The Coaching Habit, and using that first question to draw out empathy, like what's on your mind and what's else and how are you today? Because people's lives are changing. And then thirdly, which I find really exciting, and it happened a lot for us in 2008, 2009, is capture the learning moments. As we say, we don't make mistakes, we have learning moments. And we're really learning a lot right now. We're learning to be better virtual leaders. We're learning to communicate in new and different ways. So communicate, empathy, and learning are three important things to be really focusing on now.
We highlighted you in our book, Leading with Gratitude, and you told just the most endearing story about when you started to travel during the recession and people were asking you about your health. Can you take a minute and relate that? I think it's talking about empathy and it's talking about being vulnerable.
Absolutely. I was traveling the world and I was reflecting in my hotel room one day, why is everybody asking me, how are you, Garry? And it struck me, they weren't asking me how I was. They were asking me how we were as an organization. And at that time, it really did amplify the message of being able to get out and say, we're okay. We're going to get through this together. We're going to be pragmatic optimists around this. We're going to find the opportunities to grow. So it really changed my communication a little bit in making sure we were giving people that sense of security and safety, that we're going to be okay. We will get through this. When this is all over, we'll all be together with at least one more tribe member, was the message we sent.
That's excellent. You talk a lot about empathy. You talk a lot about, understanding and having that emotional attachment to your tribe members. Why is that even more critical during tough times?
Where people again, as I said, want to belong. And you've heard me talk about this guy, right? Al, the soul-sucking CEO. And he has some attributes that are really, really not good at any times. A real leader with empathy involve their people. They love their people up. They're always in servant leadership mode. They're expected to be competent. They're connected with emotional intelligence. They love learning. They have a heart of gold and a backbone of steel. They're champions of hope. They know that micromanagement isn't scalable. They do what they say they're going to do, and they treasure the gift of feedback. These are the attributes of a true leader in these types of challenging situations.
That human connection is always going to be so important. One of the things that we've noticed and we've discovered as we're doing some real-time research is that empathy and that trust that you are so precious during difficult times like we're going through. You can't just flip the switch on that. That's got to be part of your DNA for years beforehand. And you talk about having really purpose-driven mission statements and so on. I love your first value, which says we do the right thing, right? Because it's the right thing to do. Talk a little bit about how your values over the years has driven the growth of your tribe.
Well, yeah, thanks, Chester. A lot of people think that values are disabling. In fact, values set people free. So our values, imagine a place where you go to work every day, you make a contribution to something bigger than yourself, you learn something new, you're set free and protected by a set of values, and you go home happy. Happy people create happy families create happy communities. So our values are there to set people free. And, they can use it. Our values are hierarchical. The first one is we value doing the right thing. The second one is we value creating positive, lasting memories in all of our relationships. We say at the company, we're in the memories business. We create positive, lasting memories by solving problems in factories, homes, and workshops of the world. And in fact, our just cause is to help make life better at home and at work. At home for our users, at work for our users, at home for our tribe members, and at work for our tribe members.
I love that it's that deep, and because people go, it's WD-40, I mean, so and yet you've made it so noble and so engaging. We often joke about your favorite quote from Aristotle, and we'll throw it up in the lower third there. Um, it is so interesting and you're going to say it better than I do because I'm getting a brain lock here. Aristotle said in 385 BC, he said,
Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work.
and by creating that pleasure and that ripple effect. Well, it is so interesting. Let's take a break here just really quick and see if people came up with the right answer on WD-40. So, Justin, can we jump to you? Did we get 10 winners? Were people able to Google it fast enough to win the motivators assessment?
Yeah, we got some carry on people too who looked at the person who said something above them and just tagged on. But we did, yes. What do we have? Marcus, Dr. Tanya, Tiki, you've got a whole across the channel. So yes, we are in good shape.
That's great. You were a global company, Gary, and we have a global audience. We have people tuning in today from Canada, St. Lucia, Dubai. Really kind of fun. So it's always great to have this great, global LinkedIn audience. Well, the other thing and you've related some really fun stories to me, and I'd love for people to put it in the chat box. What are some ways that you use WD-40 around your house or your work? You were relating to me a couple of really unique stories about how WD-40 really saved the day. I think our audience would love to hear those.
Yeah, there are two that are quite different. There was a lady in the Midwest of the United States who had a bird feeder in the backyard, and it was kind of a bowl sitting on a pole. And the squirrels used to go up the pole and eat the bird feed. Well, she wanted to protect the squirrels and feed the birds, so she sprayed WD-40 on the pole, and little squirrel had a little trouble getting up that slippery pole, which I thought was an interesting way of both protecting the squirrel and feeding the birds. Another really, really oblique use. Many years ago, there was a robber robbing a premises in Colorado, I believe it was, and he was in the air conditioning duct. To get in through that duct, he actually was naked and he got stuck. So when the paramedics and the fire brigade arrived, a little spray of WD-40 on the inside of that air duct, and they slipped him right out.
And then there was a Hong Kong bus. That's my favorite.
Yeah, there was a python snake that got caught in the undercarriage of a Hong Kong bus, and it was stuck in sort of the exhaust system. So they were able to spray WD-40 around the outside of the exhaust system, and that old python wiggled its way out and back into the community of Hong Kong.
Excellent. Well, listen, if you've got some fun ways you've used WD-40 around your house or work, just put it in the chat box, and Justin will pull them up for us. One of the things you talked about earlier was in the tribe is that you celebrate together. And I've had the opportunity to spend some time with your tribe members. You've got some really unique ways when you bring your leadership together to really celebrate and to express gratitude. Share a couple of those with us because I think they're really unique.
Now, one that's very powerful, and I know this was the one you witnessed. 3 times a year, we get together and we have what we call a global tribal council. We don't call ourselves managers. We're all coaches of our people. We don't have the executive group. We have a global tribal council. And when we get together with people all around the world, we open our time together with a ceremony that I actually learned in Hawaii. And it's about letting go or setting free into the universe something you want more abundance of and something that you maybe just want to get rid of. So we have about 30 or 40 people, and they all write something down on a 3x5 card, and we're in a lovely area at the Inn at Rancho Santa Fe, and we have a burning fire, and they walk up to the fire and they read either the thing that they want to release to the universe for more power, or they want to release from their life, and they tell a little story. And we've had everything from people sharing some family illnesses to roadblocks that got in their way in their life. And it's a wonderful, wonderful, enriching ceremony. Vulnerability is shown. There's hugging, well, there was at the end. I guess now there's going to be elbowing at the next one. But that's a beautiful way of us coming together and sharing our thoughts and our burdens and also our abundance.
You know, it was so moving, and there was such a rapport between all your leaders. Now, I know there's people out there saying, look, this is too much kumbaya. This is too much soft stuff. Talk a little bit about the results of this tribal culture at WD-40 and start with your engagement. And then I'd love you to go to your growth over the last 10 years, because people are going to say, look, this is all fuzzy. This is all, and yet on the back end are tremendous business results.
Yeah, thanks, Chess. We've proven that highly engaged people create, I believe that purpose-driven, passionate people guided by their values create amazing outcomes. And we've proven that. Our employee engagement percentage is 93%. We just did our last survey in March. As many of you know, the average out there is about 33%. And I'm not sure how any leader can be confident that they're going to create great outcomes in their company if 67% of their people go to work every day and hate their jobs. I just don't get it. Now, we are results driven. Now, we're a public company. We have to compete for capital like everyone else. But over the last 15 or so years, we've had a compounded annual growth rate of total shareholder return of about 15% a year. We've quadrupled our revenue. We've taken our business to 176 countries around the world. 65% of our business is now outside of the United States. And another measure in our employee engagement numbers that I'm really, two of them, 98% of our people say they love to tell people they work at WD-40 company, and 96% say they respect their coach, and their coach is their boss. And the most reasons people leave companies is they hate their boss. So yeah, we put an equal balance between creating a culture of performance and performance of a company. And we've proven that pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work.
You know, it's so well said. And, you know, people say, well, you're having so much success, that's why you've got such high engagement. And it's exactly the opposite, isn't it? It's because you created such a great tribe that you were able to drive those extraordinary results.
Profit is the applause of people doing great work.
Ooh, say that again.
Profit is the applause of people doing great work.
I love that. I love that. We're all about celebration. Well, listen, do we have any interesting questions coming in, Justin? Have you got any? Oh, first and foremost, you got to tell us, Garry, WD-40 stands for?
Water displacement, 40th formula. 39 formulas didn't work. The 40th one did. I'm glad they never gave up. And just as a matter of interest, it was invented 66 years ago to stop condensation and corrosion in the umbilical cord of the Atlas space rocket. So this secret formula, because it's a secret formula, came out of the Atlas space program 66 years ago.
Wow, wow. So Justin, at the Question Control Center or Command Post, what have you got for Garry?
Speaking of space flight, that's right. Speaking of space flight, it's mission control here. Well, we've got a comment here and a question. So I'm going to go with this. This is from Tom Button from San Diego. And her memory is, she says she has fond memories of using WD-40 with her dad on home improvement projects. If it didn't move, we always grabbed WD-40 and sprayed it. She has a follow-up question, which I'll read here. And it says, she loves the idea. Oh, this is the question. It was a comment too. Love the idea of helping people get an A instead of just simply marking their papers. I thought that was a nice thing. I saw several people talk about that. But going to a question, we have Gautam Nabar from Mumbai, who actually wrote into us. And his question is, how do you ensure that your values are embodied by other people in the org?
Great question. Thanks, Justin. You first adopt values and then you embed them. And in fact, we write about this in the book that Ken Blanchard and I wrote, which was this one, Helping People Win at Work. Our values are part of our tribal talent development program. So every 90 days, we ask people to share with us how they have lived, not visited, lived our values in the last 90 days. When we first started this 20 some years ago, we'd have lunch and learns where people would talk about, what is this value? What does it mean? What would it look like if we lived it? More importantly, leadership has to live them every day, and then embed them as part of the decision-making process in your organization. There would not be a meeting that we go to where someone doesn't bring up one of our values and ask the question, do we really believe that's doing the right thing? Do you think this will create a positive, lasting memory? How will this enhance the WD-40 economy? Will this make it better than it is today? So these values have become common language through the organization. And when people see us living our values and making decisions based on that, and here's an example of one. Our number one value is we value doing the right thing. We could be more, our last value is we value sustaining the WD-40 economy, which is about profitability. These are force ranked. So number one is more important than number two. We could make more profit if we didn't have a mandatory of no carcinogenics, no cancer-causing chemicals in any of our products. There are products out there today that people can buy a cheaper ingredient that they have to label Prop 65 on. We say no. So our doing the right thing value trumps over actually the profit side of it, because doing the right thing is not having carcinogenics in our products.
I want to jump in on that because, it is the modeling of the behavior. And I love that you talk a lot about, you got to talk about it. You've got to give up specific examples, and the leaders need to embody that, because the way a leader acts and performs literally gives everyone else permission to do the same. I mean, it's one thing to have it written on the poster. If the leaders don't live it every day, it has absolutely no meaning. Have I got that right?
Absolutely. I get the most concerned when I walk into organizations and they have their values in a really nice frame in the lobby. Values need to be on a coffee-stained bit of paper that's crumpled. They need to be there and talked about. And they say, yeah, look, we have values. Look at, they're up on the wall. Well, they can't be up the wall. They've got to be in the heart and in the head.
Excellent. Another question, Justin?
Yeah, so Garry, it seems you have quite the fan club out here. A friend of yours named, looks like Kelso Lopez in San Diego, says, hey, Garry. So you got fans there. On a fun note, we've got JT from Florida, and he asks, kind of tongue-in-cheek, I think, or maybe serious, I don't know, will there be a new WD-40, like a WD-41, kind of like the new Coke?
No, but we do have WD-40 Specialist, which is a range of products that we developed about 10 years ago that are aimed at specialty uses. WD-40 Specialist Penetrant is one. The one that's closest to WD-40 that people will love, I'm sure, is called WD-40 Spray and Stay Gel. It's our original formula, but in a gel format. So if you spray it won't drip. But the blue and yellow can with the little red top, the secret formula from 66 years ago, it ain't changing.
There you have it. Talk a little bit about, too, I love that, you say we don't make mistakes at WD-40, we have learning moments. Talk a little bit about how that's created innovation and a psychologically safe tribal culture.
Yeah, well, apart from belonging, one of the other, biggest demotivators we have is fear. And many, many years ago, I said, why do we use this word mistake? They're not mistakes, they're learning moments. And a learning moment is a positive or negative outcome of any situation that needs to be openly and freely shared to benefit all people. So we don't make mistakes, we have learning moments. And, one of the things that's embedded in our tribe is we share those learning moments with others. So, we might have a positive learning moment that we would share, or if we have a negative learning moment, we also want to share that. And, when people hide things, we often say no lying, no faking, no hiding. And by that, we have to give people a safety zone. So you'll hear a lot in our organization. I just had a learning moment. Let me share it with you. It's funny, I had one yesterday. One of our tribe members, Kate Covery, sent me an email. She said, I had a learning moment. Do you know that when you're using WebEx, the space key turns on and off your muting, so you don't have to look for the other button. And she shared that with the world because she knew that that was something that was important to do. As simple as that. Can you imagine how much angst that's dissipated with people using WebEx because they now know they can mute by just pushing the space bar on their keyboard?
I love that. By the way, speaking of innovations, there is a travel size WD-40 that I carry around with me so that the wheels on my luggage don't squeak. So there's an innovation for you. I do love the fact too that learning moment is kind of built into the name WD-40. I mean, like you said, 39 formulas didn't work. Glad they didn't quit. Well, listen, we're coming up on the half hour here. So in the lightning round, what are 3 ways that our listeners can build their own tribes that can replicate what you've got at WD-40? If you had 3 tips, what would they be?
Define your purpose, adopt it and adapt it would be the number 1. Define a set of values that empower your people and set them free, and have an unquenchable desire to celebrate and be grateful. Believe in yourself. Never give up. Take one day at a time. We all have something significant yet to do.
That is beautiful. Words to live by. So we have a campaign, hashtag Find Your Gratitude. So where did you find your gratitude today, Garry?
It was a beautiful moment. It was very early this morning. I got up and I let Max, the wonder dog, out into the dog yard. He turned around. He gave me this big old look, wagged his tail, and welcomed me to the day. So I am so grateful for Max, the wonder dog.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to share where I found my gratitude yesterday. And it's because your son, who works for Adidas, sent me these beautiful orange sneakers. These are great. In fact, he sent me not 1 pair. He actually sent me 2 pair, because anybody can have 1 pair, of sneakers. Well, listen, Garry, it is a delight to have you on the show. I love that we have the same barber. I love that we got to meet you, the Marshall Goldsmith MG100. Keep that tribal culture alive. Keep doing those wonderful things, because if there's anything that people need more of now during this crisis and going through these tough times, it's a tribe that they can count on. And you've certainly done that. Thanks for being on the show, Garry.
Thank you. And thank you for everything you do, Chess. You're just a wonderful human being. And all the sharing you're doing at the moment is making a difference in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Well, listen, we're here every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern time on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. It's the same bat time. It's the same bat channel. We hope you'll join us. Our next guest is going to be a really good friend of ours who's done some remarkable work in disruption. And boy, have we had our lives disrupted. Her name is Whitney Johnson. And if you haven't subscribed to her podcast, Disrupt Yourself, treat yourself to a great podcast. She is smart. She is funny. She'll have great information and great tools for you. Well, I want to thank Justin in our question control center, command center. Wave to the crowd. Thanks for those great questions. And I always want to give a shout out to the world's greatest online producer, Brent Klein, who today is wearing his orange beanie, totally sucking up to the host. And I appreciate that. Well, listen, hope to see you next time. Same bat channel, from the wonderful people at the Methods Network. And by the way, if you want some great information on the past podcasts of ours or Marshall Goldsmith's, go to methodsof.com/network. And if you want some great takeaways from our new book, Leading with Gratitude, we've got leadingwithgratitudebook.com. Some great downloads there. Well, listen, I'm grateful for our time together today. I hope that this broadcast will make you a little more grateful, a little more kind, and a little more patient. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Take care, you guys. Don't forget to wash your hands. Cheers.